Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the hidden risks and honestly, the massive but often overlooked opportunities of circular economy compliance for Indian MSMEs. So if you run a small or medium enterprise and you manufacture, import, package, or even just assemble products, there is a massive regulatory shift happening right under your feet. It's called extended producer responsibility. We're going to break down exactly what you need to know, what traps to avoid, and how to actually use this whole thing to your advantage.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The new waste reality. 2. Who is actually responsible? 3. Common compliance traps. 4. The big business advantage. And finally, 5. Your practical compliance map.
Now, you might be wondering, does your responsibility actually end after the sale? Well, for decades, the answer for most businesses was a pretty simple yes. You sold the product, and whatever happened to it at the end of its life was just the customer's problem, or maybe the local municipality's problem. But today, if you sell packaged products, batteries, or electronics, the surprising answer is very often no.
Okay, moving into Section 1, the new waste reality. We are talking about shifting the burden of waste management. Enter extended producer responsibility, or EPR for short. In plain English, this framework means a business just cannot treat waste as someone else's problem anymore once the product leaves the shelf. If you introduce regulated items into the market, you absolutely must ensure they are properly processed through authorized systems. It's a total paradigm shift. We're talking registrations, mandatory recycling targets, and strict evidence of processing.
Which brings us to Section 2. Who is actually responsible? Let's demystify these regulated waste streams. Let's break down the 4 major EPR areas that are really affecting MSMEs today. First up, plastic packaging. This hits producers, importers, and brand owners. Selling packaged goods without target compliance is a massive regulatory risk right now. Next, if you touch batteries in any way, producing, importing, or recycling them, you are locked into the 2022 battery rules. Then there's e-waste. This one carries intense compliance and severe reputational risks for electronics producers. And finally, sector-specific streams, like tires and used oil, carry their own dedicated registrations.
So how is all of this actually tracked? Well, it's done through the Central Pollution Control Board, the CPCB. They have these centralized portals for each stream. But here is the crucial takeaway. This is not just some digital sign-up sheet. You actually have to meet annual targets and submit regular strict audits to stay compliant.
All right, Section 3, common compliance traps. We're going to look at myth versus reality here.
Trap number 1. We see this all the time. The myth is that importers just assume EPR is only a headache for domestic manufacturers. But the reality? The law actually places the compliance burden directly on the importer who brings the goods into the Indian market. Assuming the original manufacturer is just going to handle it is a massive risk. It leaves you entirely exposed.
Then there's trap number 2, and this one is specifically for the brand owners out there. A lot of folks assume that because they buy their packaging from a supplier, well, that supplier carries all the EPR responsibility, right? Well, no. Brand owners, take note. You cannot just outsource your liability to your packaging supplier without verifying the specific rules of your transaction. Depending on how your business is structured, you are very often the one held legally liable.
Trap number 3 definitely catches a lot of smaller units off guard. It's super easy to think, hey, we collect our waste, the local municipality takes it away, boom, we're compliant. Actually, scratch that. Handing your waste to the city is not the same as fulfilling formal EPR targets. Those require authorized processors, not just chucking it in the local bin.
And here's the final trap, the marketing disconnect. Your marketing team slaps 100% recycled or plastic neutral on the box because, let's face it, that sounds incredibly appealing to consumers. But if your marketing department is throwing around those buzzwords, you absolutely must have the verifiable, legal compliance evidence to back it up. If your sustainability claims don't perfectly match your actual documented evidence, you are literally walking into a reputational nightmare.
Moving right along to Section 4, the big business advantage. Let's talk about turning compliance into an asset.
So why does all of this matter beyond just, avoiding hefty fines? Well, it really comes down to ESG. Corporate social responsibility teams at massive corporations care deeply about this. They have to mitigate their own supply chain risks and protect their brand reputations. Because of that, they are desperately looking for secure vendors. This means MSMEs that are fully EPR ready instantly become premium, highly attractive partners. You aren't just following the rules here, you are actively increasing your company's valuation.
And finally, Section 5, your practical compliance map. Let's go over the steps to becoming EPR ready.
To actually get started, experts highly recommend building what's called a minimum evidence folder. Think of this as your essential baseline. You're going to need your GST and PAN details, exact product material specs, and recorded yearly market quantities. But you also need formal agreements with authorized recyclers, your CPCB portal certificates, and internal standard operating procedures to prove exactly how you track all of this stuff.
Okay, so once you know what evidence you need, how do you actually build the system? Just follow these 5 clear steps to transform that raw data into actual compliance. Step 1. Identify every single product or packaging material you drop into the market. Step 2. Map them to their exact EPR categories. Step 3. Check your specific business role. Are you a producer, an importer, or a brand owner? Step 4. Confirm your registration pathway. And Step 5. Create yearly quantity records that perfectly reconcile with your GST filings.
Which leaves us with one final, absolutely critical thought to chew on. Are your product and packaging waste streams fully mapped? The landscape of business in India has fundamentally changed, and the waste your product creates is now your legal responsibility. Before you make your very next sale, take a hard look at your supply chain and ask yourself if you truly know where your materials end up. Because in this new circular economy, knowing that answer is literally the difference between a crippling liability and a massive competitive advantage. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.